Joining us now is Okpe, with stories trending around the world. Hello, G.
That was terrible.
Hello, G.
Terrible. Dreadful.
Okay.
How are you?
I feel this morning, right?
Yes, it's okay. Sometimes it works.
Good morning, OG.
Good morning,
We're
Tundun.
matching.
How are you? Yes,
Matching.
finally.
Okay, yeah,
Yes,
okay. I didn't get the memo.
Your red tie is always dapper. You know that, right? Maybe tomorrow. Good morning, Rufai. How are you?
Good morning, OG, my love. How are you?
Great, thank you. Well, good morning to you, viewers. We begin what's trending in Nigeria. A billboard bearing the picture of President Muhammadu Buhari and the logo of the All Progressive Congress was burnt down by protesters on Tuesday morning in Yantumaki town, Dansuma local government area of Katsina state. According to reports, residents of the town were protesting against the attacks and killings by bandits in the states. This development is coming a week after the governor of the state, Aminu Masari, announced that his administration had pulled out of a peace deal with the bandits. The protesters reportedly barricaded the Katsina-Kankara major highway and blocked the road leading to the town. They were said to have been enraged by the kidnap of one Mansur Yusuf and his daughter by bandits around 1 a.m. on Tuesday. Twitter users have had mixed reactions. Let's take some tweets. One user wrote, "But they voted him. They never saw this one coming. When you negotiate with unscrupulous elements like kidnappers, bandits, this is what you get later. Because they know governments will still come back to beg and negotiate again. Clueless governments." Another user wrote, "Buhari's government have failed in their constitutional responsibilities to Nigerians. Is this tribalism, religion, or ethnicity? No. Nigerians are tired of clueless, corrupt, inept, and incompetent government. Buhari must resign now. We know the National Assembly won't impeach him because they are rubber stamped." Another user wrote, "Truth is, either the federal government of Nigeria does not know what to do about the security situation in various parts of the country, or they do, but lack the courage to execute. More like the latter. Is someone holding the security forces back from doing what they know to do?" I mean, this is quite alarming, what happened yesterday in the town. And reports came that overnight on Tuesday evening, there were still attacks in several communities in Katsina state. I mean, I don't know what to make about this whole situation. It's really appalling at this point.
Well, the responsibility of government, as spelled out in Section 14 of the Constitution, is the security and welfare of the people.
Yes.
And oftentimes we've seen, government not living up to expectation.
Yes.
And of course, the state of general insecurity in Nigeria remains a very serious problem. I just hope that what is happening in Katsina is not that after the governor decided to back out of the deal with the bandits in that state, then the series of attacks that we've been seeing, not just in the last week, but even earlier, I hope it's not a case of reprisal attack, as it were, to use that phrase.
It seems like what is happening.
If that were the case, then, of course, the governor and the security agencies, they have their job cut out for them, which is to mobilize every effort to ensure the security of lives and property, and to prevent a situation like this where the people, out of frustration about their own safety, are beginning to take the laws into their hands and protest. And the whole point is that when people are oppressed, we had a similar issue yesterday, when they are oppressed, you really cannot predict the extent of their reaction. We've seen in the UK people pulling down statues, although yesterday the view was expressed that maybe they shouldn't be, lawlessness is not advisable. Yes, in principle, but you really cannot control the people when they feel so frustrated.
No, you can't.
They feel helpless, and then, of course, they will express their anger.
It's the
in
only
a manner
way
that
they can express themselves.
You're completely right. I mean, lawlessness cannot be encouraged or what have you, but all of that, as we say here, is grammar when it comes down to it. Insanity in individuals is rare, but in a crowd, it is the rule. It is the norm. People will do whatever it takes to make themselves heard. And I think this attack on this billboard with the image of the president is so striking because so much has been made of his cult-like devotion, especially in the northwestern geopolitical zone. And it goes to show that no devotion is unconditional. It must be earned constantly. With the spate of violence against these people, enough appears to finally be enough. Rufai.
I mean, I think the words of former American President Dwight Eisenhower rings true. And he said that a country that values privilege over purpose will soon lose both the privilege and the purpose. The privilege of governance should never undermine the purpose of the security of human lives. And when it looks as though nothing is being done, that the privilege of governance is more important than the purpose of securing lives, then you have challenges like this. It is a time for all of us to look inward and do what is right and truly protect the people as enshrined in the Constitution that went out there in Katsina State and voted. We have no business negotiating with bandits. We have no business negotiating with people that come in and maim and kill. Let us protect the people, and the people will be at peace.
Very well said, Rufai, really. All right, let's take another story in South Africa. The horrific killing of a 28-year-old woman by yet-to-be-identified persons have got the nation outraged. The young lady by the name Sekofaso Pule was stabbed to death. Her body was found hanging from a tree near Johannesburg. She was 8 months pregnant. Twitter users have used the hashtag #JusticeForSego to demand an end to violence against women in the country. Let's take some reactions. One user wrote, "Welcome to South Africa, where voices that speak for alcohol are louder than that of gender-based violence, where women and children's killings are increasing abruptly. What is the point of our government? What is he doing about it? How loud should one shout to be heard? #JusticeForSego." Another user wrote, "Can we have the same commitment from our justice system to finding Sego's killer as they did in finding alcohol traders during lockdown? #JusticeForSego." In response, one user wrote, "It is a disgrace. COVID-19 has shown us that the South African government is more than capable of mobilizing resources and mapping out a multi-departmental approach to handling crisis in this country. This is a crisis. Do something. As Cyril Ramaphosa, #JusticeForSego." And this is a horrific thing that happened to this young lady yesterday. Yesterday, her body was found hanging from a tree, and they said that the last time they saw her was June 4th, and she had an argument with her boyfriend, and CCTV camera found her going in an Uber, and since then she'd gone missing. The police have opened an investigation on her case, and the outrage really is the fact that the violence against women in South Africa has been a resounding outcry from the people of the country. It's really a sad situation for this young lady who was stabbed.
Well, South Africa has had to deal over the years with the challenge of femicide, gender-based violence, and rape. And it just seems to be getting worse. Between 2017 and 2018 alone, within the space of 1 year, there were reported cases of close to 3,000 deaths involving women, and that's like about 3 cases per hour. And it's getting worse, and this particular one is not even just Sekofaso Pule, that's her name, who has been killed. She was 8 months pregnant, so it's like killing 2 persons.
Yes.
And then she was left hanging from a tree. And, the sense of outrage and shock that has been expressed across all levels by South Africans, I think is most appropriate. But the challenge for the authorities will be to find ways of, preventing gender-based violence. An investigation has been launched. We hope that that investigation will succeed and that the perpetrators, the persons behind this gruesome killing, will be found and be made to face justice.
It's important that they are, because this kind of unspeakable barbarism cannot be allowed to continue. And it is constant, as you said, 3 cases in an hour. I mean,
yes.
It's horrific. When you go to South Africa, a lot of South African women will tell you it's so commonplace. People are almost casual about it. Oh, I was raped by a friend, I was raped at university, I was raped at work. It's really quite staggering. And it's the cause of it is the impunity that grows when nothing is done. As the tweets you shared, OG, pointed out, a lot more outrage is expressed towards alcohol traders in COVID-19, cigarette traders, than people who kill women. And this woman was murdered, and so was her unborn child. I mean, it's unspeakable. It's so tragic. Rufai.
Very sad one. Barbarity is barbarity. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. So justice has to be done. The killer must be found, must be brought to book, must be prosecuted.
I mean, really, the outrage about the fact that they couldn't, the alcohol situation during the COVID-19 lockdown. I don't know if you remember how, people were so excited when, the alcohol ban was lifted. That is because they really emphasized that lockdown on alcohol. So really, that's the outrage with South Africans at this point. They are saying that the government is able to enforce certain laws. How are they not able to enforce a law like finding the killers of women in South Africa? Women in South Africa have really gone through a whole lot during the past, I believe, 4 or 5 years. There have been so many killings going on in South Africa, violence against women, really. That's really the situation at this point.
Well, even with the end of apartheid,
yes,
the post-apartheid era, we've seen South Africa having to deal with many issues.
Yes.
So it remains a country that is in transition. But that in itself in no way justifies the spread of violence and, the targeting of women. So that's why we think that, look, it's the government that has to do more, whether the issue is rape or femicide or even xenophobia.
Yes, but the issue is the society places a certain value on women. I was telling you the other day, OG, and OG, you were shocked. But everybody will, maybe it's in the UK, if, unfortunately, you're a victim of rape, you must not shout help as a woman. Nobody will come to your aid. You must shout fire. And that tells you how women are perceived in society. And it tells you your priorities are dictated by your values. And that's just the bottom line. Women are not prioritized. Crimes against women are often seen as a family problem. This issue with the domestic violence is also similar. Oh, it was her husband who beat her. What did she do? Oh, her boyfriend raped her. Well, she shouldn't have worn this. She should not have gone there. It's the way women are perceived that really has to be changed. And it's not a South African problem, because we do have what Dr. Abati, in your piece yesterday in This Day newspaper, you termed as a rape pandemic in Nigeria. It is the way women are perceived, and it's in all kinds of insidious ways. Society constantly tells you that you really have no value. It's extremely upsetting.
Really,
I mean, Sundu, very well said, very well said. We need to have a rethink as regards how we treat women in African society. And I can't say enough of that, because it looks as though we have a culture that is stacked up against women. And the good thing about culture is a way of life of a group of people. But culture can evolve, but it takes a lot of work. Can we have that same evolution of culture that respects women in Africa? It is possible. We can do it. This is the time to start the work.
Well, in that regard, you need to do a lot to educate the political leaders in Africa. Because you'll recall that in Nigeria, when attempts were made in the National Assembly to review certain laws, you find some of the lawmakers standing up and opposing what would look like principled position on the place of women in society. And you've had the case also in Nigeria of a member of the National Assembly displaying his wives, like chattel, to the applause and consternation of his colleagues, in the National Assembly.
Dr. Abati, as we wrap this up and move on to anything, I want to remind you of a certain name. The man's name is Thomas Isodore Noel Shankara. What Shankara did to be able to enshrine the rights of women in Burkina Faso, it didn't take him 2-3 years. He was committed, he was firm, he was forthright. There were days in Burkina Faso when men went to the market for women while Shankara was alive. it can be done, it is possible.
Okay, I hope so. I hope you know that in Nigeria you have a dual legal system with the Sharia. If under the Sharia, a man can go to the market for his wife. Anyway.
Very well said, guys. Well, let's head over to the U.S., where family and friends gathered to lay George Floyd to rest in his hometown of Houston on Tuesday. Politicians, civil rights activists, and celebrities joined in sharing memories of the man they called a gentle giant. Many in attendance gave powerful eulogies, including a sermon by Reverend Al Sharpton. Now, the niece of George Floyd, Brooke Williams, while speaking passionately about the injustice her uncle suffered, asked a question that echoed Donald Trump's campaign slogan, "Make America Great Again." Let's take a listen.
I want to say, hello, my name is Brooke Williams, George Floyd's niece, and I can breathe. Long as I'm breathing, justice will be served for Perry. First off, I want to thank all of you for coming out to support George Perry Floyd. My uncle was a father, brother, uncle, and a cousin to many. Spiritually grounded and activist, he always moved people with his words. Their officer showed no remorse while watching my uncle's soul leave his body. He begged and pleaded many times just for you to get up, but you just pushed harder. Why must this system be corrupt and broken? Laws were already put in place for the African-American system to fail. And these laws need to be changed. No more hate crimes, please. Someone said, make America great again. But when has America ever been great? Those 4 officers were literally on him for 9 minutes, and none of them showed they have a heart or soul. This is not just murder, but a hate crime. I share happy memories with my uncle. Now that's all I have, are memories. I still can't pull myself together to how he is calling my grandma a name. I believe my grandmother was right there with open arms saying, come home, baby, you shouldn't feel this pain. No one should feel this pain.
So moving.
I mean, that slogan, "Make America Great Again," has been so controversial, and it's amazing that this young woman used that slogan to correct the rhetoric that when was America great? When was America ever great? Racism has been ingrained in the system for centuries, decades. In fact, I saw a placard recently saying, protesting against racism is like protesting against America, meaning, this is a part of the culture there in America. And I'm glad that this young lady, changed that slogan and made people aware that this is not America. This is not the America that we should be going after. Racism should be expunged in America. I mean, George Floyd's funeral was amazing. Look at that with the horse carriage. I was so impressed by the whole ceremony that happened yesterday. And, Al Sharpton also, when he was giving his sermon, he asked the people, the family members that were at the funeral, people that have suffered this racial injustice that were in attendance to stand up. So it was quite a befitting burial, really.
I would say that whole America has never been great again. She's referring to the fact, and it is a fact, that America is built on the genocide of one race, the Native Americans, and the slavery of another, Black Africans. However, America does have its greatness. I mean, this morning, yesterday, last week, at some point, one of us on this show will invariably quote a former American president. Nobody quotes President Trump, unfortunately, but a former American president. Rufai, you quoted Eisenhower, who I quote a lot myself. There's also the great FDR. There's the Camelot, JFK. America has produced great leaders like Abraham Lincoln. The same America is also this country that's founded on such beautiful, noble ideals. There's a romanticism with America. America, the international calling code +1, that's meant to be the #1 country in the world, God's own country. We grew up calling it. So there's a lot of that rhetoric that does show that America has greatness, even with the racism that we see, the ugliness of the murder of George Floyd. We see white people, black people, brown people protesting side by side, white people equally outraged by racism. So there is greatness in America, I have to say. Unfortunately, there's this ugliness of racism as well. So one does not cancel out the other. With individuals as with nations, the picture is quite complex. Dr. Batty?
Yes, I mean, America has always been a great country, to always be great, I guess. But the context of this is within the context of racial equality, justice, and the widespread concern about police brutality in the United States. And the death of George Floyd looks like a major turning point.
Absolutely.
For the United States and even perhaps for the rest of the world, because he has become in death a symbol around which a cultural revolution has emerged. And that cultural revolution has at its heart this protest about the issues of race, equality, and justice. Only yesterday we were talking about what happened in Bristol with the people insisting that the statue of a slave trader should be removed. That's Edward Colston. Now, also yesterday in the United States, the statue of Robert Milligan in front of the London Museum was also pulled down. In Oxford, we also had people protesting, saying that the statue of Sexy Rhodes, whom Rufai referred to yesterday, should also be pulled down. And in fact, a petition has been sent to the council in Oxford with regard to the statue of Sexy Rhodes. So you find this cultural revolution around the issues. And for me, that funeral yesterday, what is most significant there is that the protest is across all ages. You see that young lady protesting, you see older people also protesting. And it's interesting to see that at certain critical moments, we all come together as a human community to say that certain things are unacceptable.
Rufai?
Right, I'll tell a quick story. Many years ago, the 1700s, a certain man called Francis Scott Keyes went to a harbor in Baltimore after the war, and the American soldiers had been bombarded, and the American flag was there, the Star-Spangled Banner. And this man saw the flag, despite the fact that the flag was torn, and it inspired him to write the American anthem, "Oh, say can you see." America should go back to that point. Their Star-Spangled Banner is flittering away in pain because of societal injustice. America should take the inspiration that they've always had to fix racial injustice, to make the arc of justice truly bend towards the American universe, and to fix race relations, or else it will jeopardize the unity of America.
Unfortunately, Rufai, that anthem also glorifies slavery. You're referring to stanza 1, but check out the other one.
Exactly.
Oji.
Yes, I mean, well, I wanted to say what you were saying. I wanted to talk about what you meant by America has always been great. Yes, America has always been great. But again, the slogan, "Make America Great Again," was the issue here at this whole ceremony. And to make America great again, Donald Trump really has to understand that racism has been ingrained in our system. Well, this takes me to my next story, which we'll talk about as well. Well, still in the U.S., after almost 2 weeks of protests due to police brutality and racial injustice, the head of New York State Police Benevolent Association, Mike O'Meara, held a press conference on Tuesday and spoke passionately about his stance on the media's portrayal of police officers. Now, during his speech, he accused the media of vilifying the police, stating that they treat them like animals and thugs. Let's take a quick listen.
I am not Derek Chauvin. They are not him. He killed someone. We didn't. We are restrained. And you know what? I'm saying this to all the cops here. Because you know what? Everybody's trying to shame us. The legislators, the press, everybody's trying to shame us into being embarrassed about our profession. Well, you know what? This isn't stained by someone in Minneapolis. It's still got a shine on it. And so do theirs. So do theirs. Stop treating us like animals and thugs. and start treating us with some respect. That's what we're here today to say. We've been left out of the conversation. We've been vilified. It's disgusting. 375 million interactions. Overwhelmingly positive. Nobody talks about all the police officers that were killed in the last week in the United States of America, and there were a number of them. We don't condone Minneapolis. We roundly reject what he did as disgusting.
Michael Mira was talking about the media and how they have been, vilifying them and, talking about the fact that there have been killings during the whole protest of police officers, and the media have not been reporting it. He said thousands of police officers have died during the almost 2 weeks of the protest, and nobody is talking about it. And he was quite vocal about the fact that they are trying to defund the police department. And Donald Trump yesterday wrote out a tweet about the fact that, because there was a police officer that pushed an old man in Buffalo, a 75-year-old man who fell down and broke his head. There was blood all over. And instead of him to talk about the fact that, police brutality should be, readdressed and all of that, this man sends out a tweet and says, well, he might have been a left-wing protester who was, who fell harder than he was pushed, and these are the types of rhetoric that makes America not great. I mean, I know that it's Donald Trump, but we need to address the situation at hand instead of making it just, nothing.
I think his righteous indignation that he's trying to portray here is disgraceful, quite frankly, because Eric Garner, the first person who made I Can't Breathe famous, unfortunately, was murdered by New York police officers.
I am not Derek
So he should be
Javon.
embarrassed by the conduct of the bad apples in the police force. Nobody is suggesting that all policemen are bad.
Nobody.
But the fact that bad police officers exist should shame him. So his little outrage here is a disgrace, quite frankly, and he needs to calm down. The fact that other groups are demanding rights that you have always enjoyed does not represent an attack on you.
And then again, the cast will seem to reinforce the concern about racism. I mean, these are New York State, policemen, and it's an all-white cast.
Imagine.
So you ask the question, is this a gathering of the Ku Klux Klan, the KKK? And then the second point, the reference to the media. It's always very convenient for people to blame the media. And they often forget that, look, when there are issues and the media reports the truth, they get emotional. But the job of the media is to draw attention to key issues in society and to provide leadership. So he's wrong trying to blame the messenger, reporting the situation around race and justice in the United States.
Very good. Well, let's take our final story in Belgium's city of Antwerp, where city officials ordered the removal of a statue of the late King Leopold II just days after it was daubed with paint by anti-racism protesters. Statues of Leopold have been a target of activists because of his record of brutal colonial rule in Belgium's former Central African colonies. Leopold II was king of the Belgians from 1865 to 1909. During his rule, he oversaw a genocide in the Congo in which 10 to 15 million Africans were killed, which led to the first usage of the term crime against humanity. The movement to remove monuments of racist figures began to gain momentum around the world after the latest U.S. police killing of George Floyd triggered a global wave of anti-racist protests. Yes, I mean, we talked about this yesterday, so, I love the movement. I'm very excited about that.
I'm excited about this, but please, I want to make a plea.
Anyway, OJ, thank you very much.